All right, before we get started, I just want to go over a quick little bit of housekeeping. Um, we're going to be starting out by having everybody, with Faithlin giving a presentation about exactly what the medical amnesty policy is here at Roger Williams University. After that is done, we're going to go into a panel discussion with the Howies as well as a couple others. And from there, we are going to open up to any questions. I just ask anybody to remain muted until we get a chance to actually get to asking questions.
Well, thank you, Steve. Welcome, everybody. I'm Faithlin Norman. Thank you all for joining this evening. I appreciate it a lot. This presentation, as Stephen said, is going to be focused on the medical amnesty, the policy here at Roger Williams, and many factors that relate to students here at Roger and how we can essentially make it a safer place. Next. So, as I stated, I'm Faith Lynn Norman. I'm obviously a student of Roger Williams University. If you don't already know, I am a public health major. I'm minoring in psychology, and I plan to go to grad school after my senior year, which I would be graduating next year. So after May, I plan to go to get my master's in public health also, and hopefully to specialize in epidemiology someday. So tonight's agenda, as Stephen already went over it a little bit, we're gonna have an intro into the medical amnesty policy here at Rogers. We have the student of conduct here with us. Welcome, Diana Proto, and we're going to then next go into the panelists, which will be including the Howies and Stephen, which is my internship supervisor. And lastly, we're going to close it off with a question and answer. So just a little bit background about the East Bay Regional Coalition, where I completed my internship this semester. The coalition includes stakeholders from Barrington, Bristol, East Providence, and Warren. They essentially just promote healthier lifestyles for the individuals within the community and how they live their day-to-day lives. SAMHSA is one of our donors, I would say. They are in connections with Communities Talk to prevent underage drinking. And there was a stipend given to us to undertake this project. And yeah, next. So we're going to go into a story about a guy named Carson. He was born in April 1990, and he died in December of 2008. And he was found unconscious on a bed after becoming unresponsive, after drinking so much at a frat party at his school. He was actually on his way to the emergency room with a whole bunch of friends, and they had got kind of shook and a little bit scared. So they turned around and they didn't end up taking him into the emergency room and actually bringing him back to the frat, which left him unresponsive. And because of they were scared of their future, and because they might have gotten in trouble because of the drinking that was going on. So they just decided not to follow up. So he died, unfortunately, and he was found unconscious, and he died from acute alcohol poisoning, which could have probably been saved if they had made it to the emergency room on time. Next. So this is just a stat. It says 3.8% of times that help is not called is due to concerns of getting the person in trouble. So either the students themselves or the person who is intoxicated. So that's just to say that 1 in 20-ish people who need medical attention normally don't get it because of they're scared of getting in trouble. So for verbatim, here at Roger Williams University.
Just a quick comment here, Faithlin. I think you might have something in front of your microphone. You're getting a lot of feedback coming through on it.
Can you hear me now?
I can. We just found like something was rustling over the top of it.
I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me better?
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So going into the medical amnesty policy here at Roger Williams University, word for word from our handbook, it says there may be times when students face medical emergencies involving excessive drinking and or drug use. As in such cases, if an individual seeks medical attention due to a medical emergency, the Office of Student Conduct Conflict Resolution will not pursue disciplinary sanctions against the student for consumption or possession of the drugs or alcohol. So just overall, they're promoting that your safety and health comes first. So in an emergency, if someone is intoxicated, it's best to call 911 and get emergency help for them as soon as possible. And basically in the text from the handbook, it just says that there will be no disciplinary actions taken toward the student or that was intoxicated. Next. So yeah, so just a little bit more of what I was saying a little bit earlier, how to respond in a situation. Number one, you would want to stay calm. You wouldn't want to panic because you're probably with somebody who is in an awkward situation or just aren't to themselves at all. So you would want to stay calm, call 911 as soon as possible so you get emergency on the way. Don't worry about any sanctions that's going to be taken toward you because as said in the handbook, that won't happen. And you want to like stay with the intoxicated individual. If we think back to Carson's story, his friends were with him, but because they were so scared, they came back to the frat house and had left him. So it's best to like stay with the person who is intoxicated, just so you're there and you can be as best of help in the situation. So I'm going into like next steps after a student blacks out. After going to the hospital, school is informed, you're back. You're gonna have to have a meeting with student conduct, with a student conduct professional, which I'm sure Diana might go into depth with, but you're gonna have to follow up with the student conduct professionals. A phone call may go home to your parents and or guardian, which was also listed in the handbook. And you, as a student, if this happens, you just may be referred to see a counselor just to make sure everything's kind of okay. Yep, so exceptions. So the medical amnesty applies only to the possession or excessive consumption of alcohol and drugs, which can get tricky when we're thinking about what's included and what's not. But some exceptions are other violations of the student code of conduct, campus property damage, distribution, sorry, of illegal substances, and of course, assault. Those don't apply to this medical amnesty policy at all. Next. And some other exceptions are police and criminal charges, flagrant violations, and just repeated violations over and over and over, whether it's at school and just with the law in general. Next. So does medical amnesty increase drinking rates? You might be wondering, and no, according to Cornell University, the increase in calls for help in an alcohol-related emergency was a function of the MAP and related educational efforts rather than changes in drinking practices. So that's just to say that the medical amnesty doesn't really increase drinking rates, but it changes an individual's drinking practices effort towards that. The next question says, does medical amnesty increase calls for medical aid to help people who need it? And this study was kind of done by Cornell University, and it just says that the study found that within 2 years of implementing their medical amnesty at their school, students were less likely to report fear of getting an intoxicated person in trouble as a barrier for calling for help. So they were more prone to calling for help than to not call for someone that's intoxicated, because the medical amnesty policy um, has been implemented over the past 2 years. And some may be thinking, like, won't they just do it again? Oh, they just drank, they went through counseling, met with student conduct. Won't they just drink and go through the same process? And research shows that when an individual who is treated for alcohol-related emergencies, um, as a part of their follow-up care after the emergency, a brief psychoeducational intervention examining their alcohol use is likely, the likelihood of it is, the reoccurrence is reduced. Sorry. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you for everybody that came, friends, family, colleagues, and we're gonna go into our panel now. Steve, if you just want to go back to the agenda, please. I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna welcome Diana Proto, who works with student conduct at Rogers here. Hello, thank you for coming.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay? Great. All right. So, as Faithlin said, my name is Diana Proto. I'm the Director of Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution at Roger. I've been at the university about 4 years. And the medical amnesty policy is one that we make sure to hit on every orientation, family orientation, when we come back in January when there are orientation sessions, and educating students throughout the year about this policy. We think it's one of the most important things to let students know about. We talk about the code of conduct and all that type of stuff as far as behavioral expectations are concerned. But we really spend a lot of time on the medical amnesty policy because of how important it is. And Faithlin stressed a lot of these points already. So really what I want students to know about the medical amnesty policy is very simple. We want you to call for help. That's it. We don't have any interest in penalizing you for a student conduct violation related to drugs or alcohol yourself if you are calling on behalf of somebody else who needs help. We think it's so important to keep everybody safe, and that's the tenet of the student conduct process is education always anyway. So what we want you to do is that if you see somebody who you think needs help or you yourself needs help, we want you to call public safety first and foremost. If you're unsure, if you're like, oh, maybe this person can just sleep it off, maybe they'll vomit and they'll feel better, let's just watch them, let's put them in the shower, let's give them some coffee. None of the above. If there are questions about, is this person safe to remain by themselves, you should just call public safety for help. So what that means for you, say I am calling on behalf of Faithlin who's sick from, it could be alcohol, could be, doing some other drugs or marijuana. And I'm worried because, maybe I've been through the student conduct process already and I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get kicked off my sports team. We will give you the benefit of the doubt in a situation if you're calling on behalf of somebody. So I've decided here, okay, I may be underage and I'm drinking, but Faithlin really needs help. So I'm going to call public safety. And in that situation, because I've done something positive to help Faithlin, I will not be held responsible for drinking underage. So you get like this one-time pass where if you call on behalf of somebody else or yourself, I could be the one that's sick and I don't know what to do, and I may be afraid of getting in trouble, but I'm going to call public safety anyway to say I need a medical evaluation. I'm not okay. If I do that, then I can be exempt from, being charged with underage drinking, for example, through the Student Code of Conduct. So we want students to know, if you call on behalf of yourself or on behalf of somebody else to get them help if they're sick, whether it's due to alcohol or drug consumption, then you will get a pass. It's an easy way to say it, from disciplinary action for your own violations, whether they be underage drinking or drug use. Yes, there are some exceptions to that, right? If there's other violations that have happened around this event, say property damage, vandalism, you were involved in an assault, but I'm still doing something good and calling for my friend, that's great. We want you to do that. That will exempt you from some of these charges. But if there are other serious things happening, we will have to address those. And yes, it is accurate that a student, even if they apply under this medical amnesty policy, say Faithlin has to go to the hospital for drinking too much, she will still have to have a meeting with somebody from student conduct just to check in. It's informal, to say, hey, how are you? Just tell me a little bit about what led you to the point to be getting sick due to alcohol tonight or that night. And let's help you understand your drinking habits a little bit, and move on from this. Recommend counseling is always, always we do that. Any student I meet with, I recommend, you may want to make an appointment with counseling services. It's not mandated. I can't follow up on it. It's confidential, but it's always a great recommendation. So yeah, the point of medical amnesty is to keep everybody safe, and that so folks aren't afraid to reach out for a friend or on behalf of themselves if they need help. And we do find that doesn't really happen more than one time. So I know that was another point that Faithlin made about repeat offenses. Oh, won't people just keep doing it if they are not getting in trouble? So no, it doesn't really happen more than once, number one. But number two, it is a one-time thing. So we say, if you call on behalf of a friend who's intoxicated that needs help, you won't be held responsible for any of your own violations. But that really only applies one time. So if it happens again and you're calling on behalf of somebody else who needs help, but you're still in violation yourself, the second time around, you may be held responsible for that particular violation. Now, are there exceptions to everything? Yes, every situation is different. We really evaluate every incident on an individual basis. But yes, we do like to say this is a one-time thing. But again, I will say it really doesn't often happen more than once. So I think that's a good thing as well. So I guess that's the brief rundown for medical amnesty. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm happy to be here to listen and to learn from all of you.
Thank you, Diana.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Diana.
Sure.
All right. Well, I think now's a good time to open things to discussion. If anybody has any questions, be happy to answer. You can feel free to drop those right into the chat box or unmute yourself and ask any questions that you like.
I have a question here. It says, do you know of any cases where the policy was used? And I think, Diana, if you want to take on this question, since you work within the office.
Absolutely. This happens often. It really does. The policy is used often enough. I would say probably, maybe let's on average 10 times per semester that someone will be sick due to alcohol, and it will fit into the medical amnesty policy where somebody has called on their behalf or they've called for themselves. And in turn, they're exempt from any disciplinary action. Yeah, it happens. It happens often enough. Absolutely. It's a good question.
Thanks for your question. I have another question here. It says, do you know of any cases where the policy was used? Is the medical amnesty recognized statewide? So if it's recognized statewide, the second question in the chat, if some high school students are drinking in the woods and all they need is like Wrong question.
Actually, I think I might be able to answer that one. So with the medical amnesty policy being recognized statewide, in some states, there is actually a law for medical amnesty. I don't believe Rhode Island currently. So ultimately, the Roger Williams University's medical amnesty policy is going to be pretty much limited to Roger Williams University and not with law enforcement.
Correct. Thanks, Steve. Diana, I guess I have a question for you. Is there any particular kind of time of year this occurs more likely?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that our busiest time in student conduct anyway is the fall semester. Everyone's just coming back, and it's most popular amongst first-year students as well. So first-year students who are just coming to the university, they may not have much experience with alcohol, and they're drinking for the first time, you know, can find themselves drinking too much and getting to a point where they need to be evaluated by a medical professional. So I would say first year students and the fall semester, when everybody just arrives and we're all kind of getting our legs back to university life, that is the most often times that we see, you know, alcohol policy violations, but also the medical amnesty policy being used. Yeah, spring semester is not quite as busy, but fall semester, absolutely. And I would say it's usually the 6 weeks right in the middle of the semester, you know, towards the end of the semester, it tends to happen most frequently. Right around that midterm time, things start to explode. So, good question.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions? The Howies are also in the building, Shannon and Andrea. I didn't know if you guys wanted to talk a little bit, just touch on like who you are and your importance on campus.
Yeah, so my name's Andrea. I'm a third year Howie, a public health senior, and I'm on the alcohol and other drugs team. Shannon, do you want to introduce?
Hi, sorry. I'm Shannon. I'm a first year Howie. I'm a biology major, and I'm also on the alcohol and drugs team.
So basically, the Howies are a group of students. There's 8 of us, and we all work together to organize campaigns that promote college well-being. So on the drugs and alcohol team, we typically promote our work in the fall towards incoming freshmen. And in the spring, we work closely with graduating seniors, but we really act as a resource for all students year-round at RW. Yeah, we typically gear our alcohol campaigns towards breaking down the college stigma with drinking. So getting the message out there that not everyone in college is drinking, but if you choose to do so, here's how to do it safely. We do have an example of our campaign if you wanted us to share that.
That'd be great, actually.
I think Shannon can take that.
I'm going to go ahead and make Shannon a co-host real quick so they can give an example.
Thank you.
All right, Shannon, you should be able to share your screen now.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm pulling it up right now.
No rush.
I'm sorry, I mistakenly just clicked the button. I think.
We can just talk about it if that's easier. I don't know if you're on your phone, it might not share.
I am on my phone. I'm trying to figure out how to screen share, but if you want to talk about it, definitely.
It'll work out just fine.
Okay.
So what kind of programs are the Howies currently running on campus for alcohol, tobacco, other drugs?
We typically have more preventative measures on things such as If you are going to drink, things to help you do it safely, such as what you can and cannot mix it with. That was mostly what we covered in our How We Drink campaign. It's other drugs that are very dangerous to mix together, and medications if you're on them, such as some antibiotics that will react negatively to alcohol. And on the more like drugs topic of it, our recent one was Let's Be Blunt, and it's marijuana use and how it may negatively impact you and how you may benefit, just how to navigate it safely for your own well-being.
Do you always work to help promote like the medical amnesty policy and awareness of it on campus?
Andrea, would you be able to take that one? I'm sorry, I'm a first year Howie. I'm not too familiar on the team ups.
Can you ask that again? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Do the Howies actually help to promote medical amnesty policy on campus so that everybody's kind of more aware of it, keeps it front of mind?
Yeah, so every year when the incoming freshmen come in, we usually do a presentation for all the freshmen where we talk about medical amnesty. We also teach them how to like measure a drink safely, and we'll typically incorporate that in all of our campaigns throughout the year. So we always put resources on our poster campaigns. So we'll have like public safety phone number, public safety emergency phone number, and it'll have resources for amnesty policy as well. So we always try to incorporate that and let people know.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say, unfortunately, we can't show you it, but we did have a campaign that had that. We also talked about like the recovery position and what to do if you find yourself in these unfortunate events.
Yeah, that's actually really important information to give to students.
Andrea, was it the slideshow that you sent me?
Yes, it was.
I think I can pull it up.
Okay, that'd be great.
Perfect. This was definitely one of our first campaigns, and we thought it was very important to get it out as fast as we could towards freshmen, because this may be their first time drinking in a very social setting, especially like university. So yes, we really wanted to stress the recovery position and what to do safely. And I think we did mention the amnesty policy in here. Yeah, this slide we had. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we had things such as like the effects of a drug drink and how to recognize it. And that specifically right there is the chart on what not can and cannot, but what would lead to very dangerous effects if mixed with things such as alcohol and other drugs.
Do you want me to just like go through or?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. This is when we really harped on was the measuring your drink safely, because on red Solo cups, not many people know this, but it has markers for what a standard drink is. So the first one is liquor, the second one would be wine, and third is beer. And we put this one out here to get people familiar with it, so they can measure their drinks within a night and know their limits. That'll really help them be able to pace themselves and keep themselves safe, and so they can avoid having to use or engage in high-risk behaviors that would lead to using the amnesty policy and needing medical attention.
I think that's the last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing that information. Does anyone else have any other questions? Otherwise, I think we can wrap things up.
I think so too.
All right. Well, I want to thank all of our panelists for being here. I want to thank all the guests for actually attending as well. This information will actually be made available to the Howies. So they're going to be able to post this on their own websites and wherever else they feel is going to wind up being useful. Thank you again for everybody. Have a great day, okay?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.